China is changing the game. It is using trade as a weapon. No longer content with being the world's factory, China is asserting its power on the global stage. Its new export controls are a clear signal of this shift. These controls are not about fair trade. They are about strategic dominance. China is leveraging its control over key technologies and resources to advance its interests and undermine its rivals. China has carefully chosen its targets. The export controls focus on sectors that are critical to the future of technology and the global economy. These include electronics, electric vehicles, and solar panels. These are the industries of tomorrow, and China is determined to control them. This is a wake-up call for the world, particularly for countries like India that have become heavily reliant on Chinese imports. The era of unfettered globalization is over. Countries are increasingly looking to secure their own supply chains and reduce their dependence on potential adversaries. China's actions have far-reaching implications. They are reshaping global trade and accelerating the shift towards a more fragmented and uncertain world. The stakes are high and the consequences are only beginning to be felt. India has emerged as a rising economic power, but its ambitions are now facing a direct challenge from China. The new export controls imposed by Beijing are specifically designed to throttle India's progress in key technological sectors. These restrictions are not merely an inconvenience, they are a calculated move to keep India reliant on Chinese technology and undermine its rise as a global manufacturing hub. The impact is already being felt in India. Factories are facing delays, production lines are being disrupted, and ambitious plans for growth are being put on hold. The message from Beijing is clear. India's technological aspirations are at the mercy of China's strategic calculations. This situation exposes a fundamental vulnerability in India's economic model. While India has made significant strides in software development and IT services, it remains heavily dependent on China for the hardware and components that underpin its tech sector. This dependence has now become a liability. China's actions are a stark reminder that economic power is inextricably linked to geopolitical leverage. India's ability to achieve its full economic potential will depend on its ability to break free from its reliance on China and forge a more independent path in the global technology landscape. The impact of China's export controls is perhaps most visible in India's electronics sector. Take, for example, the case of Foxconn, the Taiwanese electronics giant that assembles iPhones for Apple. Foxconn had ambitious plans to expand its manufacturing operations in India, a move that was hailed as a win-win for both companies and for the Indian economy. However, those plans have hit a snag. Foxconn is now facing delays and bottlenecks due to a shortage of critical components and equipment, much of which is sourced from China. The export controls have thrown a wrench into the works, forcing Foxconn to rethink its expansion strategy and casting a shadow over India's hopes of becoming a major electronics manufacturing hub. This situation highlights the fragility of global supply chains and the ripple effects of China's new assertiveness. Companies like Foxconn, which have built their business models on the free flow of goods and services across borders, are now being forced to adapt to a new reality where geopolitical considerations trump economic efficiency. For India, the Foxconn case is a cautionary tale. It underscores the need to develop domestic capabilities and reduce reliance on external partners, particularly those with a history of using trade as a weapon. India has set ambitious targets for the adoption of electric vehicles, aiming to become a global leader in this rapidly growing market. The government has rolled out incentives for EV buyers and manufacturers, hoping to create a thriving domestic EV industry and reduce the country's dependence on fossil fuels. However, China's export controls are throwing a spanner in the works. China is a dominant player in the EV supply chain, controlling the production of many critical components, including batteries, motors, and electronic control units. The new export restrictions have made it significantly more difficult and expensive for Indian EV manufacturers to source these components, jeopardizing the growth of the sector. This situation exposes a fundamental weakness in India's EV strategy. While the country has made progress in assembling EVs, it remains heavily reliant on China for the technological heart of these vehicles. This dependence has now become a strategic vulnerability. China's actions are forcing India to confront a difficult choice: accept a position of dependence in the EV market or make the necessary investments to build a more self-reliant domestic industry. The path forward will require significant investment, technological innovation, and a willingness to challenge China's dominance in the global EV supply chain. Section 5. Solar ambitions dimmed, India's renewable setback. India has emerged as a global leader in the fight against climate change, setting ambitious targets for renewable energy deployment. Solar power is a key pillar of India's clean energy strategy, with plans to install hundreds of gigawatts of solar capacity in the coming years. However, China's export controls are casting a shadow over India's solar ambitions. China dominates the global solar panel supply chain, accounting for a significant proportion of the world's production of solar cells, modules, and other critical components. The new export restrictions have made it more difficult and expensive for Indian solar developers to procure these components, leading to project delays and increased costs. This situation is a setback for India's clean energy transition. It highlights the risks of relying on a single country for critical technologies, particularly one that has shown a willingness to use trade as a geopolitical weapon. India's solar industry is now facing a choice: either accept higher costs and delays due to reliance on Chinese imports, or invest heavily in developing domestic manufacturing capabilities. The latter option will require significant upfront investment and a long-term commitment to building a competitive domestic solar industry. However, it would also reduce India's dependence on China and enhance its energy security in the long run. Section 6. A rude awakening. India's economic vulnerability exposed. China's export controls are a stark reminder of India's economic vulnerabilities. While India has made significant progress in recent decades, its industrial base remains relatively weak, particularly in high-technology sectors. This dependence on foreign technology and capital has now become a liability, as China has shown its willingness to use trade as a weapon. The impact of China's actions goes beyond the immediate disruption to specific sectors. It has exposed a fundamental flaw in India's economic model, one that relies heavily on foreign investment and imported technology. This model has delivered impressive growth rates in recent years, but it has also left India vulnerable to external shocks and geopolitical maneuvering. The current situation is a wake-up call for India. It underscores the urgent need to reduce its reliance on China and other countries for critical technologies and build a more self-reliant and resilient economy. Section 7. The dragon's shadow. China's dominance looms large. China's actions are a stark reminder of its growing economic and geopolitical might. China is no longer content to be the world's factory, churning out low-cost goods for Western consumers. It is now a technological powerhouse in its own right, challenging the established order in fields like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biotechnology. China's dominance in the global supply chain is a testament to its strategic planning and relentless investment in key industries. From rare earth minerals to solar panels, China has methodically secured its position as the world's leading supplier of many critical components and technologies. This dominance gives China enormous leverage over other countries, as India is now discovering. By controlling access to essential technologies, China can dictate the terms of trade and exert pressure on governments that challenge its interests. Section 8. A new world order. Geopolitics reshaping global trade. China's export controls are a symptom of a broader trend: the increasing intersection of geopolitics and economics. The days of unfettered globalization, where companies could source materials and manufacture goods wherever it was cheapest, are fading fast. Governments are increasingly intervening in markets, using trade as a tool to advance their strategic interests. This is leading to a more fragmented and less predictable global economy, where companies must navigate a complex web of tariffs, sanctions, and export controls. This new world order presents both challenges and opportunities. For countries like India, it underscores the need to diversify supply chains, reduce reliance on potential adversaries, and build more resilient economies. Section 9. Charting a new course. India's quest for self-reliance. China's actions have presented India with a defining moment. The current crisis has exposed the limitations of India's current economic model and the risks of excessive reliance on a single country for critical technologies. However, it has also created an opportunity for India to chart a new course, one that prioritizes self-reliance, innovation, and strategic autonomy. Achieving this vision will require a concerted effort from all stakeholders. The government must create a policy environment that encourages domestic manufacturing, attracts foreign investment in high-technology sectors, and fosters innovation. The private sector must step up to the plate, investing in research and development, building new factories, and embracing the challenge of global competition. The road ahead will be challenging, but the stakes are high. India's ability to become a true economic superpower will depend on its ability to break free from its dependence on China and forge a more independent path in the global technology landscape.